Welcome to the First Church in Sterling for the second of a series of conversations we're having with candidates who are running for various offices and will be appearing on the Democratic primary ballot on September 16th. Earlier we had a debate between the two state Senate candidates, and tonight we're here to talk with Stephen Kerrigan, who's running for state representative for the 12th Worcester District. Steve, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Why don't we start, Steve, by giving you the opportunity to tell us who you are and why you're running.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening and to speak with everybody. I am a candidate for the 12th Worcester District for the State House of Representatives. I was born and raised in Lancaster. My folks, my mother is a public school employee, and my father was a utility worker. Sorry, There's a microphone problem. Just so I'm not laughing at the camera, I just want to make sure. Was a utility worker for Mass Electric for 31 years. I had a great opportunity when I went to the University of Maryland as a young man to get a job working on Capitol Hill for one of the greatest public servants in history, I think, Ted Kennedy. And I had an opportunity to work with him for 14 years. He's a good friend and a mentor of mine, has been for the nearly 20 years that I've known him now. After leaving the senator's office, I worked both in Washington and up here in Massachusetts. After leaving his office, I worked for 3 years as the Chief of Staff for Attorney General Tom Riley in the Office of the Attorney General here in Massachusetts. I served for 5 years on the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen in my hometown of Lancaster. An awful lot was done in those nearly 20 years in government service and public service, and I'm proud of an awful lot of the work that we did, and it helped form who I am and why I'm in this race. From everything from moving Lancaster away from crisis management, fiscal planning, to sound budget planning, both capital and operational, to providing safe internet access to hundreds of thousands of kids all across the Commonwealth, some here in Sterling through the Net Day project that we worked on, through providing critical support to the families of September 11th victims in the aftermath and all the years since. I've had an opportunity to be on the front line of government and public service, and I've had an opportunity to serve my community and my Commonwealth and my country, and that's really what I want to do in this campaign. To me, this campaign isn't about my opponent, and it's not about the last 14 years. I'm doing something that not a lot of people in our party do, which is challenge somebody in the primary. But I think that if you have experience and skills and a desire to serve, that you have an obligation to stand up and provide the voters with an opportunity and to put yourself forward for election, and that's what I'm doing. I think that there's an opportunity here. We've got a Commonwealth that's had a difficult time in its history. The next 10 years is going to decide what the next 100 years of our Commonwealth is going to look like. And this is the time where we need to make critical decisions. I'm knocking on thousands of doors each and every day. Well, not each and every day, but thousands of doors throughout the course of the campaign. That would be
a lot of
quite
doors.
Amazing, yeah. About 100 doors a day throughout the course of the campaign. And I'm hearing the same things at every door. I'm hearing about unfunded mandates from the state. I'm hearing about total apathy toward government because they don't believe government's paying attention to them. You're hearing about the high cost of energy and the low quality of jobs and housing and the low quality of life as a result of all those things. And those are really the job of government is to work with the people in a community to find creative solutions to those problems. It's not just about going to Beacon Hill and casting a vote every now and again. It's about drilling down on the real issues and frankly holding government responsible when it refuses to hold itself responsible. Congress and the legislature have an opportunity every day and every year to make difficult decisions at the tables in the Capitol building and on Beacon Hill, and yet they refuse to, and all those deferred decisions end up on kitchen tables in your house and all across Sterling and all across the 12th Worcester District, and that's unfair. It's unfair to ask the towns and the people who live in them to bear the significant burden of making the tough decisions that the government really should be making. Governing is about prioritizing, and I frankly think that our government, although well-meaning people serving in it, refuse to make the difficult decisions that have to be made. And nearly 20 years in public service, I think has informed me and given me the skills to get out there and help make some of those decisions. I mean, people are tired. They're tired of all this stuff. They're tired of the unfunded mandates and all that stuff. They just want things to be a little bit easier. They don't want a handout. They want it to be a little bit easier to raise a family, a little bit easier to send their kid to college, a little bit easier to make sure the streets are safe, and that their parents can live out their lives in comfort and dignity. I mean, that's all they want. And it's not too much to ask for, as a government, to have a government that's fully committed 100% to working each and every day to make those things a reality for the people of the state. You know, I think our state has forgotten that we're actually a sum of our parts. And we forget that there are 351 towns. Everyone says, oh, well, the towns will just deal with it. The towns are the state. They are us, you know, and when we forget that, when the state government has forgotten that, that's when we need to stand up and say a change has to be made. And, you know, I'm offering myself as an opportunity here, and I'm offering the skills and the work that I've done. I learned an awful lot in my time with Senator Kennedy about government service and about working with people, and I've learned one of the most important things is that it's the stuff often not in the job description that matters the most. And I think that's where we miss a lot in government right now. People aren't willing to give the 110% that our government should be required to give. A government is a unique thing. It shouldn't be run like a business. It should be run like the institution that it is. It's there for the commonwealth, and sometimes we forget that. And so I'm here tonight to ask for votes, to ask for people's support. I'll never forget what I pledged to do and why I want to run for office and why I want to serve, and I'll never forget that when elected. And that's, I'm here just to ask for vote and support on September 16th on the primary.
Your campaign literature says prominently on the front, it's time for a change.
It's either the front or the back, depending on which side.
Depending on which side you look at, that's right. And on your website, you're quoted as saying, this was at an event you had just last week in Clinton, you're quoted as saying, for too long the people of our communities have been forgotten on Beacon Hill. Can you expand on that a little bit? In what ways have we been forgotten?
I don't just mean our communities. I think communities in general are forgotten because it's no mystery that on Beacon Hill the municipalities committee is not exactly the one that people clamor to be on, but it should be one of the most important ones to be on because, again, the Commonwealth is the sum of its parts, and we're forced on a community level, and I saw this when I was a finance committee member and a selectman, to make the difficult decisions that the state refuses to make. The federal government and the state both have passed on their fair share of unfunded mandates, but they all end up in town halls, and when the town halls can't deal with it, no fault of their own, it's volunteer, part-time government who works very, very hard. It's one of the hardest jobs I ever had was a selectman. When they can't make the decisions or have an inability to fund the issue or deal with it, it ends up on the kitchen table. People have to decide how they're going to vote around over that. People have to decide whether or not they're going to stay in their house. I bumped into a friend of mine who I've known for 30 years, and he and his wife and their 3 kids are moving to Virginia Beach, hopefully by winter, because the house they've had for years, they can't afford the property taxes on or the heating bill this year. I mean, that's wrong here in the Commonwealth, that people should be leaving our state because they can't afford to live here anymore. And the property tax question comes largely to the fact that communities are forgotten in large measure by the state government. I mean, that's what I mean by that. I mean, I do think that there are a lot more. Government has an awful lot of obligations out there, but governing, as I said, is prioritizing, and it's the decisions that the state government makes that directly impacts the decisions that mothers and fathers and parents have to make each and every day.